currently. So I work in one of the fintech companies. Total, I have 14 years of experience in IT. So it is like, in 2010, I have started my IT career. And, I switched on multiple job domains. I started with support work and then testing and then global services team and implementation team and development team. And finally, I landed up in DevOps. Right. So I worked in all, categories like infrastructure, automations, and deployments, monitoring, observability, right? So there are so many domains that I worked on it, and it gave me a lot of knowledge, right? So okay, so before starting it, right? So maybe some of them might be aware that what is DevOps, but in a simple or layman terms, right? So what we say, right? DevOps is, earlier we used to have a different development teams and different operations teams. So if you have heard about waterfall model, right? So I hope everyone is able to, hear my voice very clearly, right? So just wanted to confirm.
Yes, we can able to hear you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So earlier, right? So we all know we had some waterfall model in SDLC. SDLC means software development lifecycle, right? So in SDLC we had waterfall model, and then right now we are in agile model, right? So in waterfall model, what is used to happen? There is a different people who only do the coding, and there is a different operations team who only does the production deployments, right? So there is used to be a huge communication gap. We all know that, some of them will be sitting in Bangalore, some of them will be in Hyderabad, or and so on, right? So obviously, if, for example, let's take an example, if operations team is sitting in Chennai and development team is, sitting in Hyderabad, they do the coding and then they send an email or maybe in a meeting they'll inform you to deploy. So the developer might have tested in his laptop or a mission or somewhere else, right, which doesn't have an access to the our operations team. So generally what happens, right, due to this collaboration problem or communication problems, whatever the code that works in developer mission, the same thing, it will not work in production. So ideally, if you look at, for example, let's say he developed a code using Java 11, but operations, you are running at Java 8. So obviously, while deploying the code, it will fail. So there are a lot of, collaborations problem that IT has been encountered, right? So the IT, the whole team has been encountered. So then they come up with some approach called DevOps. So that means what is DevOps? Basically, we are working together, even if it is a operations team and development team, they work together to remove that communication gap, or maybe to remove that barriers that they come across during the deployments, right? So in general terms, right? So how we can say that from the planning stage, for example, let's say there is a new project came to build a, maybe let's assume like a Book My Show, everybody knows, right? Book My Show, or maybe Ticket for You. There are many portals to book the tickets. It can even support movie tickets or even travel and so on, right? So when you get such a requirement, when you are planning it, when you involve operations team also, so they can prepare their infra well in advance. For example, let's say you are going to host a Book My Show UI, user interface. Maybe that is as a microservice, or maybe it is a monolithic application that runs in some server. So when you involve both of them during this phase itself, planning phase, so then you know that, okay, these are requirements. Oh, I'm going to run the Java or .NET or whatever technology it is. So then what I'm going to do, so the particular operations team is aware of, okay, this particular tools that I need to have a build, right? That I need to build it, I need to deploy it, I need to have a servers. And where it will be hosted, it's an internal application or external application, right? So obviously it's a global application which is available in internet, because we are giving it to the consumers so that they can book the tickets, right? So within the planning phase itself, okay, operations team will be in sync with developers team to understand what they need and what kind of systems they need and what kind of building tools they need, right? End of the day to deploy it seamlessly without any issues. So during the coding stage, okay, so now DevOps guy involved it during the code stage, and developer said, I'm going to use Java 12 or Java 18 or whatever it is, right? And then I may use a Maven, or I may use a Go language, or I may use a Python, right? So all those things will be discussed within the team, internally, and then they'll come up with a plan. Okay, in these servers, I need this so and so, middleware or compilers, right? Similarly for build, right? So build, what kind of automation are you using? For example, if it is a Java program, people may use like Maven or maybe Gradle, right? You might have heard about it. And even if they use it Golang or maybe Python, so they will use a Python interpreter or Golang CLI, right? So in order to build their particular source code and package them, right? So now what operations team will do, right? So earlier we know what is the problems that we have faced it in waterfall models. That is, the developer try to test it in his own laptop or maybe in his own server. So now we have a common team, so which will develop a tool. Maybe they may use an open source tool or anything. All of the code will be tested in a single server or maybe a single user interface, right? So that is shared across the operations team and also the developers team, so that if the code is going to work in that particular automation tool, maybe let's take an example of Jenkins, right? So Jenkins is an open source tool which will allow us to do the build and deployment or even test also, right? So in simple words, so let's say I have a sum of two numbers, right? Maybe developer might have written a different languages, right? So sum of two numbers I can even achieve with shell script, Python, and also Java and also Golang. It all depends, right? So now I have a common platform in Jenkins. So as an operations team, I have clearly set up, this is my Python version, this is my Java version, this is my shell script, all those things, right? So when the developer pushes that code to SCM, that is nothing but our GitHub, right? So when the developer pushes, and then automatically these tools will read that, the new code, or maybe it will clone the repository, and then it will try to build it. So build is nothing but checking the syntax. It can be sometimes, let's say you take a Python. So for Python program, there is no building concept, right? So you will still check with syntax. And if you take a Java, yes, you have a build. There is a tool called Maven or maybe Scala. All right, we have a tools. And even for Go, we have a tool to build it. So you will build it and you will also run the parallel test cases, right? So they will write, developers has to write some test cases to prove that functionality. Let's say when you are talking about sum, right? So that means they cannot pass negative numbers, right? So it is always going to be an integer number. So that kind of test cases they will write it. So using this DevOps approach, right, we are going to do the build and testing and release and deployment and operations and monitor it within the pipeline. So that is nothing but a DevOps, processes or DevOps pipelines, right? So I will stop here and then we'll go to some general architecture, right? So we'll try to understand the real advantage of DevOps architecture, right? So how it is going to be an iterative approach and how it is better when it compared to the previous SDLC process or waterfall model, right? So now if you look at, so what we have is, first is planning. So we all know that we involved from the planning, and we also there in coding phase, and we also there in build phase, and we also there in test phase, right? So when the operations teams comes, they are more responsible for release, deploy, and operating that infrastructure and monitoring the infrastructure and pass the feedback, right? So what will happen here? Let's say you have delivered one use case one, and now you are planning for use case two. So parallelly, the development might have been started, and after the deployment, it is exposed to customers, and they come to know that there is a bug, or maybe there is an issue with some particular functionality that is not supposed to be like that, right? So then in that case, what we do, right? So when monitor detects it, and then automatically they will take a feedback, and again they will plan for the work that needs to be whatever it is. It can be a code side or build side or test side. So again, the developers team will do the planning, coding, and building and testing. So it can be use case one or feature one, feature two. So there is always going to be continuous, right? It is a continuous cycle where our work is not getting stopped. In waterfall model, right? If you want to build any application, the application will only be delivered at end of the stage. But here, so if you, for example, let's say in waterfall model, you are trying to build an Paytm application. So that time maybe Paytm might have given some 10 services, like maybe wallet or maybe booking or so on. So after completely doing the development for 10 services, then only you will deliver that software to the customer. When the DevOps came to picture, you don't need to wait for 10 services to be delivered. Now I can start with wallet and I can deliver it so that customer can get a revenue, right? Whoever is paying us, that particular investor is going to get a money, because when there is a transaction happen in wallet. And the second use case, again, I will deliver it in next month. Then it gives value add and boost to the customer, right? Then they'll start getting the revenue from the day one itself when it is getting onboarded, right? So that's why DevOps is famous for, accelerating the business and speed, time to the market. For example, let's say now you all know how startups are, delivering this kind of applications or whatever it is so fast, right? So without DevOps, they cannot do anything. So they are following the DevOps methodologies and they are, bringing the particular applications into the society or maybe they are releasing it in outside public. So now, if you take a best example as Paytm itself, right? So you all know you might be using Paytm, PhonePe from past 3-4 years, right? So you all know what is there in Paytm first? Just a wallet where you used to scan that, Paytm scanner and then you just, send the money from your bank to the wallet. Now they have got a lot of UPS integration, TV. I mean, even you can do a shopping, online shopping, and also tickets, movie tickets, rail ticket, and so on. They have brought a lot of services, even including your gas services, internet bills, credit card bills. You can do many things. So they didn't have a thought of bringing all the services at a time because they know that if you want to build all the services, it needs a lot of money to be given to the developers. So what they have thought, they are slowly, going to the market and understanding the market needs and all those things they have done. That's why they are one of the top in a payment industry or maybe in the wallet services, right? In e-commerce. So similarly, PhonePe, GPay, all those things have come. They are all competitors. So now what we need to understand is how DevOps is really helping them to go into the market in a faster phase. So now tomorrow some other startup will come just with like 1 crore rupees and they have a thought of creating some application which is going to be impactable to the public, then how they will make it, right? So they only have 1 crore and they want to get revenue and then build on top of and they want to measure their services. So what they do, right? Maybe they will take some 30 lakhs or 40 lakhs for a couple of use cases and build them and release it to public. And once if public is using it, get the revenue from them and reinvest. So that's how the startups are doing it. To release something and get the benefit out of it, right? And all those things are happening over. So, and also it improves the mean time to recovery. So this is a very, very important point. The reason is issues are common. So a lot of times, maybe some incidents may come, criticality may come, all those things. But all we have to do is how quickly we can recover the system from the failure. Right. So recently, what happened? We all know that Windows, right? So what happened? So there is a CloudStrike company. So maybe they have some kind of a policy update which affected the booting process for Windows. We all seen that worldwide. No, it got lot of outage, right? Whoever is using Windows platforms. So we have to understand how quickly we can recover from the failures. Right. So I can say one question as well. So overall, DevOps aims to enhance the speed and quality of the software delivery, improve the customer satisfaction, and create a more responsive and resilient IT environment. Yeah, absolutely, you are right. So it will be easily embeddable in the development, delivery, and operation phases, right? So even not only that, it will also provide some resiliency for your services. So let's say you will be building in two availability zones or maybe two data centers. One will be primary, one will be active, right? But how can you do the data sync? How can you do the activation? How do you detect the failure in the primary data center? How do you know that it will immediately bring up that service in the a backup data center? All those things will happen through the DevOps processes. So it has a lot of monitoring, it has observability, and it knows where to trigger the particular point of incident when it occurs, right? So now I'll get into the last, typical DevOps CI/CD flow so that everybody will be clear what is going on the IT market, right? So now if you look at, there is a Jenkins platform, right? So what it does mean, it is an open source tool. Everybody can install within 2 minutes, right? So it will bring up that user interface for you and ready to do, DevOps related integrations. So this Jenkins platform is we call it as, continuous integration. So open source automation tool, right? So now let's say you have some 10 systems, right? So you have some 10 systems in the three categories as test servers, three are UAT and three are production. So you can categorize all of them in an inventory and then you can ensure that, for example, let's say there are some developers push the code and they want to deploy it in a development systems and UAT systems. So with one single click, I'm going to show the demo also how these things will work in backend. So with one click, what will happen? So it will get the code base and do the build and package them and get it deployed in your Kubernetes or Docker environment or wherever it is, whether it's in AWS cloud or Google cloud or Azure cloud, it doesn't matter. So we all know, right? See, when you have Unix operating system, you can do anything, right? There is no point of thinking that only GCP Linux VM can do or like AWS VM cannot do this. If it is a Linux environment, you can do anything. It doesn't matter from where that server is created. It is an AWS or Azure or Google cloud. It doesn't matter, right? So similarly, when you have an automation tool, you are going to interact with all the systems, right, within the pipeline, and then get the data, build them, and then send it to for deployment. So now let's talk about one simple application. Okay. So now I have an application. So maybe we can take same Paytm app itself. Let's not concentrate on mobile app, right? So let's think about user interface, like that will be accessible through browsers, right? So now the Paytm has been launched a different service, maybe a new service they have added. How do they do it? So when the code has been prepared and then internally tested, and then if it is ready for the deployment, right? So what they do, they will not go to each system because Paytm is such very big application. It will be accessed by crores of people within India itself, right? I cannot just run it in a single server. It cannot accept that much load and it will fail eventually. So they use different, cloud services. It can be Kubernetes, it can be Docker, right? And so on, right? So now here, let's take an example. Now he developed a piece of code, right? And that piece of code is there in our SCM. So maybe let's assume like this is our GitHub. So from the GitHub, the Jenkins will pull the code base and then it will build it and then it will test it and it will create a manifest. Manifest is nothing but your jar or var or maybe some kind of binary, right? So it will be pushed to Artifactory, and then from the Artifactory, it will also push to Kubernetes. For example, if it is a Docker image building, it will send it to Docker image. And Kubernetes is maybe whoever is not aware, so it is just a container orchestration. We can basically run any kind of containers in Kubernetes. So Kubernetes will take care of your container lifecycle and orchestration. So we will talk about little bit, maybe in another 5 minutes. And now it can be deployed in the target environment because I know it's just a developer commit, or maybe developer said that just push it to the lower environments. Lower environments nothing but other than your production environment, right? So then he will push it. So this is how a very simple architecture to understand how DevOps is going to work in a real time. So in most of the companies, 99% of companies, this kind of architecture will be followed, and maybe there will be a different in terms of tools. Some of them may use Jenkins, some of them they use Circle CI, but GitHub Actions, right, and so on. But only the concept you have to understand is how we are going to do it, right? Okay, so I see some couple of questions. Yeah. So yeah, it's not a question. So correct. So whatever the assumptions that you mentioned. Yes. So who are all can learn, DevOps, right? So the way we designed the syllabus, it is from the freshers, right? So for example, if you look at even QA people, for example, let's say you are already expertise in testing. So why do, for example, let's say the developer may give you a source code and ask you to test it. How do you test it without knowing how you can build it, how you can package it, how you can run it in a server, right? It is very difficult. Obviously, you cannot test it without having it is deployed in the some server or some application, right? So similarly here, we are focusing not only IT people, even non-IT people also, because we are going to teach from the beginning, right? So from the basics. So what do you need to the DevOps, right? For example, let's say let me ask you one simple question. So now I want to go to Hyderabad from Bangalore. So what are the options that we have? Maybe let's make it some interactive. I want to travel from Bangalore to Hyderabad. So what are the options that we have? Anybody wants to talk? You can unmute yourself and feel free to talk or message. Yeah. So a lot of people message it: bus, car, train, flight, train, buses. Yeah. So flight. Very nice. See, now we know the path, right? What we have to do, right? So there are many options: train, flight, bus. Then what else we have? people can walk also, right? Okay, just for fun. Okay, so now let's understand. You have some urgency. Do you go in flying? Obviously, you will not choose it. You will choose the flight, right? So you don't have any urgency, then you will choose train. Or maybe some of them who is not comfortable in train journey, they will choose the bus. So it's all how we are going to plan it based on the people's mindset, right? We are clear until this point. Similarly, DevOps also. Now, I want to create a product. Maybe I'm targeting some people, let's say some youth I'm targeting. So what kind of app I can build? Maybe learning, free education, right? Or maybe subscription based videos, right? All those things. If I'm targeting youth, right, then I need to plan for some kind of learning apps, free education apps, and subscription videos. So how I can do it? See, I'm targeting because I just having an invest base, right? I want to target a learning platform, or I want to build some other app which is useful only for the youth. I want to attract youth. So then I have to think in that mindset, and then look for the options what I have. Right. Similarly, if you are looking in e-commerce, how you can target? There are many vendors, right? Starting from Amazon, Flipkart, there are many things. Azio, there are many individual websites also, Lifestyle Max, all those things. So how you can think differently and make people attracted to do the business in your app. The first thing is giving offers and all those things. But anyway, let's not talk too much on that. So from that investor point of view, so when he invests 10 crores, right? When he invests 10 crores, and if you tell I can only give you everything by next year, then the investor, obviously have to look on interest point of view, and then by the time people mindset may change. And by the time there are a lot many other e-commerce applications may come. Because even if you think like that, even today, we didn't expect that COVID will come. So then a lot of mask, right? Face mask business has been started rising. And even nobody knows after phase 4 or maybe stage 4, the COVID will gradually come down. So then, if they have invested huge money in the mask making, right, they should have got losses. So we need to understand how the market is going to be and how the scenario is going to be, right? So all those things assessment will happen, but DevOps will help how quickly we can get into the market, how quickly we can assess the trends, right? So why I'm talking about trends, so understand the point here. So we all know when we want to travel to our hometowns, usually what we do, right? What we do usually, we'll book tickets on weekends or maybe holidays when there are long weekends that are coming, right? So then during those particular days, you will have a huge traffic in the websites. So that's how we have to think and expect. Okay, during this Sankranti season or maybe some festival season or something else or holy season, I'm going to see a lot of traffic, right? Or maybe during summer, lot of people will be traveling to other countries, other states like Ooty, Manali, all those things, right? So then they will increase their fares, right? How do they do that? Because they know the trend. Last year, these many travelers have come here and then reached and they spend their holidays. They have all those analytics information, and they will get it. Similarly, in DevOps, we have to do a capacity planning. How do you do that? You will keep on monitoring, right? So you will see today like 10 lakh million people, maybe 10 lakhs people have access to our website, and tomorrow it can be 11 lakhs, 12 lakhs, and so on. It can be increased, right? So all those things have happened through our thought process. So DevOps will teach you how you can think, how you can plan, how you can execute, how you can monitor, right? For anything, not only this. Now, these are all like general examples that we usually see in everyday day-to-day life, right? So now let's come to DevOps. This particular syllabus, right? So we start discussing with what is DevOps, why DevOps, what is the importance that you need to understand, and introduction about DevOps, SDLC. I talked about software development lifecycle, and why they have come to Agile practice. That is nothing but DevOps practice, right? And then understand the DevOps practice basics. So in DevOps, just knowing the name, you will not be able to work with other teams. We have to understand and then make them understand these are DevOps processes. If you are aligned to this, then we make a better product, right? And then what we really needed skills in order to learn DevOps, right? Starting with Linux, we all know, even if you are a part of QA domain or support domain or any domains, nowadays people are using Unix platforms or any Linux platform, right? So now we need to understand, right? So we need to understand how you can have some basic skills needed. So there are in Linux also, Linux itself is a big version, right? Obviously, Linux administrators, Linux users, Linux PowerShell user, there are many things that if you want to learn in Linux. But in order to be, excel in your DevOps career, what are all commands that I need to know? What are the concept that I need to know? So all those things will be covered under Linux, right? And the next is Git. We all know it is one of the core for the DevOps fundamentals. So source control system, you need to know what kind of commands that you need to use and how the code will be pushed, what is a pull request, and how do you add a code, how do you commit a code, right? And what are the stages that are there in Git. So all those things will be explained very in detailedly along with practical exposure. So now next, let me go to the Maven. So now you know that your team or maybe developer is using Java, and you joined as a tester, and they mentioned you to that take the source code and test all the APIs or maybe some other functional test cases. So how you do it without knowing what kind of compiler tool I can use, and how do I find Java version? How do I find a Maven version? Right? All those things only will get a clarity. Yes, we'll also talk about its course fee and all, maybe at the end of the session. Any other questions anyone has so far? Any questions? I'll give small 3 minutes break. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. What about Python? Yes, Python also will try to show how you can deploy it. See, one thing that we have to understand is we are not a developers. We are not a developers. We are a DevOps engineers. Developers will write the code and we will ensure it is getting seamlessly deployed. And then we should have some basic skills to understand what developer has, code has been written on which version and all those things. So what type of job you will get by learning this? Yeah. So obviously it's a good question. System automation engineer, DevOps engineer, and DevOps lead, cloud engineer, SRE, site reliability engineer. So there are many job roles which falls under this DevOps category. And even AWS cloud engineer, right? Okay, so I hope there are no other questions. So now we'll get into Maven. So now, what is Maven, right? So, okay, I can see one more. Azure or AWS, which one is better? So what are the similarities are there? And there is another question, what benefits I get from this course as a QA engineer? Yeah, it's a very good question. I will answer it. So first, let me answer Balu's one, Azure or AWS, which one is better? So DevOps is an agnostic tool. So now, for example, let's say, now today I'm using maybe Dell laptop, tomorrow I may use Lenovo laptop, or day after tomorrow I may use Mac laptop. But what you have to understand is how I can use it. Dell or maybe Lenovo or Mac. What is the difference that you see? Dell and Lenovo, only the brands difference. But if you look at operating system, if they give Windows, then you are going to use, your usage will be same. But Mac, when it comes to Mac, the operating system is different. And the way you operate, it is different, right? So then in that case, what you need to learn. So basically, whatever the framework that it is gives, right? You need to learn that. For example, let's say Azure or AWS. In Azure, if you create VM using Linux, and even if you create a VM in AWS using Linux, there is no difference, only except that UI part. The way you access, the way you run the commands, it will be same. So if you want to be a versatile DevOps engineer, you should not concentrate on the cloud. You should concentrate on how I can make better engagement with the people, how I can make better product that is getting delivered, right? So that way we have to put our mindset. But current market, if you look at AWS is a trend because they provide a lot of services in terms of resiliency and all. So it all depends on market, competitors, right? And what benefits I get from this course as a QA engineer. So for this, I'm just going to talk about it. So maybe when I cover this syllabus, right, you will understand. And there is another question. I have 6 years career gap. Can I join DevOps? These things, right? I mean, I don't know what you used to work earlier, but certainly it will help you to grow in DevOps and make a general idea that you will understand how things are going in current market, right? And do we need to know programming? I'm a manual tester learning programming, but not there yet. So programming is absolutely not needed. So I'm also, even today, right, out of 13 years experience, just I have written small 10 lines, 15 lines program, right? Still I'm surviving, right? As a DevOps lead and cloud architect, right? So that I am the best example for that. And I have 7 years gap. I'm e-commerce, commerce background, and I have knowledge of software testing. Yes, obviously, a DevOps will make you better in terms of career shape, right? And what is the course duration? So it will be 45 days. So probably if I exclude Saturday, Sunday, it will become 2 months. The timings will be decided soon, and we are working for the better timings, like maybe either in the morning or evening. So we'll update it based on the people's interest. Right. So that's it about questions. So now let me get into Maven. So now you are a software tester. So as I just mentioned, maybe testers might aware only, okay, if that particular application is running in this particular server and endpoint or API, give me that API, then I will run my test cases. That's how the approach mindset people are having. So now when you have a DevOps learned it, then you can no need to ask anyone. Just build your code by yourself and then deploy it in your local server or local system and test it at your own convenience. You don't need to depend on someone, okay, if the server is going under maintenance or that is not accessible, right? So this will make you, self-resilient and self-dynamic, and you can do the testing without anyone's dependency, right? And this will also help you to, understand how your software is working, right? And now let me go to the Amazon Web Services Cloud. So we all know Amazon is one of the top vendor in terms of contribution in worldwide. So that's why we have chosen Amazon Web Services. But when you learn this DevOps, right, I will also show you how you can quickly deploy it in Google Cloud, Kubernetes Engine, or Azure based on your interest. It's all just, once the course is over, right? Within 1 hour, you can switch from Amazon Web Services Cloud to Google Cloud without any issues and without needing to know how you can without needing to learn that GKE fundamentals also. Okay, right. So why cloud and AWS account creation? We'll do that, and we'll get some default some kind of dollars, and we will be using it only for free tier. But of course, maybe we may get billed around 500 600 based on usage for the month. Okay, and then we will understand how you can create a VMs manually and through Terraform also. And one more thing is that if you want to connect it through your laptop, how you can do it using security groups and so on. So, and then storage buckets and all those things we'll be discussing it. And the core pillars of DevOps, right? As I mentioned, Git, Jenkins, Docker, Kubernetes. So these four, if you are aware, rest of these things are, you can learn it without any issues, and it will not take much time. So again, once again, I repeat, Git, Jenkins, Kubernetes, Docker. So these four are major pillars in order to survive in a DevOps market. Okay. And Jenkins, we are going to talk from introduction, because we all know, like, nobody knows about Jenkins, how to use, how to installation, what is advantages, what we will compare with other tools, how other tools are there, and why Jenkins only become famous, right? Jenkins failover strategy, all those things, and how you can set up, all those things we will discuss. And Docker and Kubernetes, Terraform, right? So all those things are written in a way that if you want to become a DevOps engineer, so this syllabus is good enough. And we'll also talk about the chat GPT, right? So now there is some of the people may ask, like, one question could be, okay, I got a job in DevOps, somehow I struggled it and I got a job. Now, how do I, make the things faster? For example, let's say you joined as maybe a C2 or maybe DevOps engineer with a 3 years experience, right? So then how you can make your work progress faster. So I will also explain that. So first we'll learn the fundamentals, and we'll also go through ChatGPT, and it will generate the code for you to make your work very easy and without any stress. Okay. And Ansible, it is one of the configuration management tool, and we'll also use it, and we will do servers provisioning or maybe servers middleware deployment and all. And at last, we also have observability and monitoring, which will teach you how you can make your application measurable. So everything we have to understand. Let's say I am going from Hyderabad to Bangalore. Then how do they decide the fares, right? So how bus people or maybe any flight, how they are putting the fare or maybe price. So they have to estimate that, they have to estimate how much distance it is there and how traveling is happening, and all those things they will consider based on the fuel consumption. All those things they will calculate, and it is measurable. Same way, here also, we will measure how your application is behaving, how I can get the alerts, and how I can take an action, right? And there is another that we are also talking about, how you can prepare a better architecture for your a company's use case. So we'll also go through some, maybe 3, 4 use cases and understand. And I will also help you on, resume building and all those things. And the another thing that you will learn, right? So here, this is not a theory based class. So every day we'll be running something on the server, Linux, Git, Jenkins, right? So from the first day or second day onwards, we'll start working on the Jenkins real use cases. So it is not a theory based. So theory will be just 30% and remaining 70% will be your practical classes. Okay. And you will be working with me or maybe you will be spending time after the class, right? And the hands-on labs, as I mentioned, so we'll be going through everything and we'll be building the application by ourselves and we'll be deploying it. And advanced DevOps also, we are going to touch upon it, but based on your interest, we will also plan for another session, like how you can grow further beyond DevOps, right? So all those things that also will be teaching it. Okay, so now we'll go to demos. In the meantime, let me see if there are any questions. Okay, so recordings, how much, all those things. Okay, that's fine. So, okay, so now I don't see any questions. So those are all already answered by QFX team. So now let me jump into our demo, right? So now let's go through our demo. Before that, if there are any questions, feel free to ask. Please share syllabus link here. Yeah, our QFX team will share it with you in Telegram, right? So I'll not be sharing any personal details. So feel free to get in touch with the QFX. Okay. Okay. So now, okay, there is a question. Let me see. Yes, we'll be working on all the projects. When the code is deployed to test environment by team lead, so what is the scope of job DevOps? How he is going to deploy it in test environment without a DevOps? A team lead is not your operations team or maybe deployer, right? So DevOps will, now I'm going to show the demo, right? Now you will understand how things are done. Okay. So now, so this is the demo. So now what I will do, this is a very simple Spring Boot application. So basically what I'm going to do right now, so I am going to edit this code. This is very Spring Boot. You can search in Google and get this code, or you can even, take this code also. Okay. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to change some version, just a, message. So now I'm going to, instead of V2, V3, I'm going to do it. And I'm just committing the changes, right? Commit the changes to master branch. And then I'm going to run this pipeline. I will explain you what are the stages. First, I'll click on build now. So when I click on build now, what it is going to do, right? So it will copy this code from the GitHub or clone, we call it as. It will do a git checkout from this particular repository, and then it will do build. So build, how it is doing it, because we know if there is a pom.xml, it's a Java code, right? So it will use the maven command to do the build and it will generate a jar file, right? So once the jar file is generated, I am containerizing that particular application in a Docker build. Docker container is nothing but your subset of your small software, right? So if I want to run a Java program, right, how I do it? So generally, if you take any WordPad, let's say, or how I can do that? So basically, I can run like this: Java jar, and then whatever the jar, blah blah, right? So this is the way that we run a Java file. So these teaching will happen, and not only this learning, and also you'll understand how you can troubleshoot it, right? So in DevOps, you need to have a sense how you can troubleshoot if there is a problem that occurred in between execution, right? So now what we have done, we have built the Docker, and then I'm going to deploy it in Kubernetes that is running in AWS. So you can see this is the cluster that I just set up it in, I think around 3 o'clock I started. By 4 p.m. it is ready, right? So when you learn this, you will also be able to do this much faster, even much better than me also, right? So now this is what is happening now. Now the code is ready, and then it is compiled and it tested, it is containerized, and it is deploying it in Kubernetes that is running in AWS, right? So now once if I go to the logs, you will see here. So you will see this is going to deploy it now. You can see here it is going to deploy it, and then it is trying to give me a IP address where that application is running, right? So it will give me, I made it as a sleep 100 because Generally, public IP provisioning in any cloud, it takes some 1 minute to 2 minutes. So that's why I intentionally made sleep 100 seconds. So that means this will be waiting for 100 seconds. Once the 100 seconds are over, it is going to display with the URL where this application is running, right? So it's a wonder within 10-15 minutes, you can have your application deployed, right? When you are learning it. But when you are dealing within startups or anything, they may take time because use cases are not simpler than what we do in the practical labs, right? So there are many teams has to work out on many dependencies, payment gateways, all those things are, they will take some time, but the process of deployment is always similar. It doesn't matter how much bigger your code is, how much bigger your application is, right? Now let me see how many services would you cover in AWS. So we will cover EC2 storage and Terraform, right? So only these two and security groups, all those things, and EKS, Elastic Kubernetes Services. So always please note that, see, when we talk about DevOps, right, it is not an AWS course. It is a DevOps means it's a mix of everything to make yourself as a DevOps engineer to work with any cloud, right? So today, maybe I will, as part of our course curriculum, we will go through AWS. But whenever you get a chance after having a thought process, within 5-10 minutes, you can integrate with GK. So that also I'm going to show you in Google Cloud as well. Will be same for Python. So Python is just a programming. There is nothing to do. If you just have a Python command, you can run your Python program, right? So when it comes to DevOps, all we need to compile. There is no compilation for Python, right? So we'll just do a syntax check. When we are focusing on AWS, is it really required to learn Terraform? No. So Terraform more comes under infrastructure as code, right? So DevOps, we are teaching this as a bonus course actually. Okay, Terraform is a kind of bonus. And so there is another. So before that, let me just complete the demo. Then I am free for your questions. So this is the external IP. So I have already pasted external IP here. And earlier it was the code was V2. So now we should see it is a V3, right? So you can see here after our deployment, our code is running in internet, right? So even you can access this. I will give you the URL as well. It will be accessible for everyone, not just for me. It is running in the AWS cloud. Okay, you should be able to access. So now I will go to all the questions. So demo is over. Now, okay, so what is the question? Azure DevOps will also be covered? No. So we are more talking on AWS, right? So AWS will be discussed. First thing, right, from your mindset, I would say remove the concept of cloud. Can you tell me if Python programmer, there is a Python developer, he will join in a company where they use AWS, or maybe in some other company where they use Azure, or some other companies where they may use Google Cloud. So will his Python skill will not work on those clouds? Can you tell me yes or no? Python will work everywhere. It doesn't matter where the server or where that is sitting in cloud, right? Similarly, we have to be like that, right? So because things will change over the period of time, right? Everywhere, it's a IT industry itself is volatile industry. Be familiar with concept, and if you go to Azure, if you know what service I have to use it for Kubernetes, then that's all. Your CI/CD, your Jenkins, your process, your code will not change. Only maybe 10% of code, the logic will be changed to connect to your Azure or maybe AWS or Google Cloud. Is there any real-time projects will be explained as part of? Yes. So we will not mobile applications. We will only do only the web applications. Mobile applications needs a different tech stack, right? Android, iOS, these are all different things that will not be taught. On cloud-based DevOps, yes, it will be covered. As I mentioned, right? So when we start the day 1 or day 2, we are going to do hands-on work. And you can think and you can even do the real-time project. For example, you think about a web application, like maybe there are many things that will post on our public internet, right? So download it and containerize them, and then deploy it in Kubernetes and test it, right? AWS is paid or free version. So certain resources are not free. So hardly if you use it, you will get it around 1,000 rupees bill. And even if you use it, for example, even if you forgot to shut down, you may receive maximum of 1,500 rupees bill. So we will show some tricks how you can make your bills also with less price. Okay. Any other questions? Anyone?
Hi, Shekhar. This is Arun from QFox.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah, so the main thing that we have to discuss here is that I feel that most of the people who are attending this session are from QA, okay, who are
Okay,
planning to move to they are aiming for QA. So there are a
okay.
lot of people there. So like, what if a QA person who has already learned software testing and they already know Selenium, Java automation, or whatever it may be, and
Mhm.
if they are joining this training sessions, okay, how this will help them is the first question.
Okay. So let me explain it with some examples. Okay. Let me just- Okay. So now, so QA mindset, what they will have. So basically, testing, and there is an API deployed somewhere, right? Or maybe functional testing, manual testing, all this. So when it comes to DevOps mindset, you know where it runs. Infra awareness, right? It gives you greater skill in order to troubleshoot, and you can tell to developers this is the problem in the code, right? And it will also teach you how softwares are getting deployed, how software is being used, right? And another thing is the journey of your code from dev to test to UAT to prod. So you will have a very good understanding about software and then the journey. And you will also understand, you make your job better. For example, let's say now what you will be doing as a testing, let's say maybe you will be using some suits, right? In order to test, let's say PyTest, you may use PyTest function, or maybe if it is a Java, maybe NG units, there are many things, right? Or Cypress framework, there are many frameworks. So what you do generally, you may use some tools to run them, and you will do a single click and you will go through the report later. But using DevOps, you can have your own pipeline. So pipeline you can set up, and you can go out and just do run, click. Then by the time you come back, so ideally test cases may take a lot of time, depends on the use cases. So then come back and analyze the report. So it will improve your work and also the performance and the speed of how you are doing it. Because when you understand DevOps, you will think about, okay, how I can make my things better, and how I can spend my time to understand something else instead of just daily running the same. So now even if you take any pen testing people or maybe different people, right? So they will use some certain tools. Every day they have to open the tool and then do some activity on the API and then do some mimicking behavior. If I have an automation, will that make them better so that they can spend some different time, they can increase the work efficiency, and you will also have a clear cut results that are displayed on the tool, right? You don't need to go and verify each and report, and you can set all the rules within the Jenkins itself, and you can keep the things going.
Okay,
Is that
so
answers your question?
yes, yes. Okay, so as we already know, we are into automation testing, right? We use CI/CD already, right? To upload our code to the GitHub repository, and take the help of Jenkins to automate the invocation process of running the automation scripts, right? Mostly these things will be not be done by us, but we strive to get the knowledge on these areas basically. Okay,
Yeah.
whenever we would like to know more, because as an automation engineer I have to push my code into the repo and all those stuff in the real time, right? That's where
Yeah.
I see that this DevOps training may be helpful for me. And apart from that, as you mentioned, right, the infra awareness, like you will be even though you are QA, you will be more part of the development team, like what's going on from the beginning phase of the project and all. Okay, so that's what
Yes.
I see there, like, because having this extra skill set will help us in being part of the team from the beginning itself. Okay, so you'll be considered as a kind of QA who also knows DevOps thing. So you'll be considered there from the beginning, and you can take the necessary things, okay, necessary decisions along with the team from by being there in the beginning. And other thing I would like to ask you is, like, in terms of jobs, really these days the QA is facing a lot, not QA, the complete jobs are not that much great. Okay, and the competition is very high. So do you think that as a QA, if we learn, okay, this DevOps, and improve the other side of the skill set, right? Will this help us in beating this competition and getting us more jobs, like more job offers when compared to only QA plus DevOps? Will that
Correct.
help us in getting the jobs?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yes, absolutely. That's a valid point. So now we all know people are expecting multi skills in other domains as well. So when you just go with QA mindset, then things will be different. And when you say, I'm aware of deployments, I'm aware of some tools, so then they can utilize in both places. We all know because QA is not a continuous work, right? Only during the new features or during the releases or during the maybe some UAT testing, all those things. It will not be a continuous effort that needs to be put in always. So when you are aware all those things, then you can extremely help your SDLC teams and bring up some more ideas, and it will help you to speed up your deployment. And also you can write a lot of automations. Now we all know with automations many of the people's jobs are losing, but when you have multi skills, right? So they will prefer your resume compared to others. So when you say I'm just a QA, and then when you say adding a value of DevOps plus QA skills, right? And then you will also talk about tools that you have worked on, Kubernetes, and then Git. So all these things will become expertise, and you'll be able to switch domains. Let's say when you want to work in different thing and you want to grow from QA to some other expertise, then you can also always do that. So within QA, as you mentioned, most of them might not need a real programming skills. Here also you don't need real programming skills. So it will extend your a career in a such a way that you don't need to stress too much on having programming skills.
Okay, fine. Okay, so the other thing that I would like to ask is, like, these days this designation known as SDET is popular, right? Software
Yes.
Developer Engineering Test. Okay, so like when like one SDET kind of person was taking a session for us earlier, right? He was telling us, SDET is not just about having some knowledge into development, but its ability to take the decisions during the project process, like from the starting phases of the project, right? How we are
Correct.
going to take the decision. So I feel like, okay, I personally feel that by having this knowledge of DevOps in addition to the QA, right, that will definitely help us in moving to the direction of SDET too.
Correct. That is absolutely. So if you look at these roles, right? So nowadays, they expect that you can also do the deployment in QA by yourself.
Okay.
So when you want to deploy an application, then we need to have infra awareness, how software is being used and where it has to go, how I can deploy it, and how I can do the testers, right? All those things. There will be some team who will have pipelines have been set up. But let's assume maybe if that particular organization you don't have any DevOps team, and if people are individually working by themselves, then I would say that having these skills will boost your career.
And also have seen some situations where we used to wait for the test environments which need to be given by the operations team, or those people, we used to, like, as a QA, right, we used to get delayed in getting the environments. Okay, even though we are ready for working with the ready to test the applications and all, right, but because of the delay from the sites, we have to go to them personally and ask them and get the environments. By learning DevOps or something, the QA people will get any edge in this area, like in case of test environment preparation and all those stuff, like by support.
Yes. 100%. So once if they know the DevOps skills, right, you don't need to depend on any person or maybe any third party site environment, or maybe there is some maintenance. You can deploy it yourself and you can start your testing.
And also as a QA, right, having the DevOps, I believe that, I feel that, um, understanding what the separate DevOps team is doing, like how they are preparing the environment, will become easier for us. What
Yes.
configurations there, we can easily communicate what we want for our QA environment. Okay, so the QA environment need to be get ready, and there will be some kind of sort of confusions between the DevOps team and QA team, because QA will be expecting something and DevOps team may be giving us something, and because of which our time will get delayed. By QA having some knowledge in the DevOps side and some knowledge of the configuration, most of the DevOps is all about configurations, right? Setting up the things and all those stuff. So by having that kind of different area knowledge, so I believe that we can work more closer with this DevOps team and get the things to our plate in a faster way. and that also adds up to our work, speed up our work and all those stuff. What do you say on this?
Yeah, you are absolutely right. And that is how industry is running today. So even if you take a startup, there will be no different teams with the DevOps, testing, all this. Because startup nature itself is, they want to go to the market as soon as possible with lesser resources and get the more revenue, right? So
Yes.
then in that cases, having additional skills will always help you. It will not harm you at all, right? If you go to even bigger companies, maybe there will be a teams, but understand when there is a site maintenance or maybe if there is a difficulty in a different time zones, right? Then you have a lot of dependency with others. So these skills, having these skills will eliminate you, and it will increase your performance in terms of deploying it and then accessing the environment for doing your test cases. Not only that, and you will also access the application, right?
Yes, yes. So, and one more last point I would like to add up, from my side is like QA having the DevOps skills will participate more in the project, okay? Because they know what's going on, at what state the environment is, like which environment it is and all those stuff, it may be production environment or release time or whatever it may be, right? So I think that will make more added advantage for these people, just working as a QA is there's nothing, but when you also know what's going on, how the software is getting released into the market, and what current state it is, what states it's going on before getting released into final release into the market in complex applications or big projects. Okay, since I have already worked on, I have felt like now, right? Environments is very big aspect area that we have to focus more on. What's your point on this? What is your view on this?
Yes, I mean that's a valid point. So basically, right, you will understand the environment. Let's
Yes.
say you are deploying something, but you don't know where you are running that application, but maybe you have done some testing and all those things went well. But there are some things which will only work in a particular environment where you have that flexibility to run the test cases. So with QA, right, you have to depend on them and ask them what environment, what I need to do, and how I can run it, how I can make it, right? So these
Yes.
dependency will be completely eliminated, and you are self-sustainable, and you will be able to learn faster compared to others, and your performance will be boosted. And end of the day, you will get a lot of bravos from your managers, management, because you are aware of the things how it will be used in a real time. Because when you know product and you just tested and you don't know how it is being used in outside, it doesn't make sense. When you try to understand the whole picture of IT deployment process from starting development to testing, all those things, then you will have an overall idea and you will be able to explain much better even for the interview calls as well.
Okay, so another thing here is that what I noticed it from the QA side is that even though we are having some knowledge on this, what deployment means, what CI/CD means, what is pipeline means, continuous integration, continuous deployment. But as a QA, right, we are not very strong in that. Okay, so I'm not talking about everyone, but most of the people, like you can take like 75 to 80% of the QA, right, they are not good with this terminology. What exactly this is, they are confused. They are always busy with working with testing deliverables and all those stuff, but ultimately coming to this, right, they are blindly using these terminologies, and they don't have the real actual meaning. They don't know why this is
Yeah.
required, how it is helping out. Okay, so because I am the person who has worked in the high level while creating the documents and all. Okay, so the client proposals and all, there will be some situation comes as a QA, I need to provide this kind of details, like these terminologies I need to use, like deployment, pipeline, and all those stuff. Okay, so I believe that most of the people who are attending today's session, right, who has attended your session today, may got some confusion here and there. Okay, this the words like pipeline, the words like what is Docker, they may not be knowing. Okay, maybe they have heard DevOps, but most of the people, I know that, but most of the people may not be knowing what is Docker or Kubernetes and all those stuff. Okay, so what's your plan in making this training program even more better understandable? Like, what do you think, like for such kind of QA people, like 75 to 80% of the people are in this bracket. So how can we make these sessions more better? Any thought process going on your side? Like, can you?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. It's a good question because it will be confusing because we just have only 1 hour time and then
Yes,
we
yes.
covered in high level. But when it comes to course, right? So we will talk about first continuous integration, and within continuous integration, how many steps are involved, and once the continuous integration is over, what I am going to expect in SPLC process or SDLC process. That is nothing but software development lifecycle. What is helping us to do in continuous integration and what it makes better in continuous deployment, right? How these two are interconnected. So all those things will be detailedly discussed along with the practical exposure.
Okay, fine. Okay. So fine. And the next thing here is like, I came across one like a website, that talks about the roadmap for DevOps.
Roadmap,
I'm
yeah,
just
correct,
putting
correct.
that in the chat box. If you can open that and, uh, you already have, okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
So we'll
roadmap.
also take you through this, and maybe certainly all people can open this. So before that, I
Yes.
just wanted to address there are a few questions in chat. So I'll just
Sure,
cover
sure.
this.
You can go ahead.
So the first question from Srija, okay, the will Azure DevOps, I think I have answered this. And will you cover Ansible in depth? Of course, so we are covering nearly 65% of Ansible topics, which are used in general. So for example, let's say I have a Bible, but I will not read everything, right? So even if you're attending some university exams, what do you do? Important questions or important topics you will go through, right? Because those are more frequently asked and more frequently used in IT industry, those will be covered. And rest of the things you'll be able to do it by yourself, right? And branching strategy, yes, we'll do that. What is JFrog? Yes, we will discuss everything in the, this is related to DevOps. You are absolutely right. So branching strategies, JFrog tools, container, Kubernetes, all those things will go from the basics to advanced. And Terraform, yes, industry knowledge wanted. Yes, we will also cover that. And tools mentioned here, I have no idea. Is it going to be basic level or advanced level? So whatever tools I told for DevOps, right? Git, Jenkins, Docker, Kubernetes, right? And Prometheus and observability. These are all absolutely from beginning to advanced. There is no doubt about it. As I mentioned, those are core pillars for DevOps, right? We have to learn it if you want to become a DevOps engineer, and I am responsible to teach it up to advanced level. And syllabus link you will get it in Telegram itself. I'll ask them to post it. And when it comes to DevOps roadmap, right? So now if you look at, this is the industry trend where a lot of people from industry will update what are the tools that will be used within the DevOps area, right? So now if you look at, there are three things here: personal recommendation, alternative option, and order in roadmap. So just look for these things. So personal recommendation or opinion, that means most of the people are using that particular tool or maybe programming language. Okay. Yes, Linux also will be teaching it from the beginning. That is also, it is very important thing in DevOps. Without Linux, you cannot do anything. Okay. So now let's come to where our Jenkins is listed. So now let's take a look on where it is. If I scroll down a little bit, or maybe search for, if you look at Ansible, right, that is there in our syllabus. So this is the personal recommendation. That means this DevOps roadmap, whoever prepared, all the experts around the world, they are recommending you to learn Ansible, right? So then we have kept that same thing in the our syllabus as well. So now people are recommended what they have recommended: AWS, Google Cloud, Azure. So we have picked up AWS based on the market strategy, but you
How
will be able
many
to work.
services you will cover, sir? How many, sorry to interrupt you. How many services you will cover in
Yeah.
AWS?
So in AWS, right, if you look at our syllabus, so we are going to cover, there are 200 plus services in AWS, but we will not be dealing with everything. But we'll start from EC2 and security groups, VPCs, and also storage buckets. And within the storage buckets, we'll handle all the internal things like how they can do replication, maybe time, like maybe versioning, all those things, right? And lifecycle policies, all those things that we'll set it. And also the block storage. This is nothing but your persistent volumes, like you have a hard disk, right? System similar to that. And this is elastic load balancers. Like just now I pinged my URL, right? So you are able to access this particular URL. So this will become elastic load balancer. And we will also create our own elastic load balancer and we can assign it to the service that we want.
So do you think this is fine, sir, from AWS services from the entry perspective, or what do you
Yeah,
think?
from the DevOps perspective, this is good enough. And when you are only going for AWS interview, then that's a different thing. Okay, for
So
example,
will you
let's
do
say you
another
are
course?
going
Will
for,
you do another detailed course, sir, for AWS? I mean, for somebody who
for
not like
example, you
AWS
want,
solution architect.
yeah, for example, if you are going for AWS solution architect, it has a different syllabus altogether.
Will you cover that
Even
one
if
also, sir? I mean, separate
uh,
course as well after the completing this one,
right now
like
we are not
AWS
planning,
solution
but
architect,
based on people's interest, we'll see.
like roles like AWS solution architect or Azure admin, AWS admin, such type of roles.
Yeah, I got it. So right now we are focusing on DevOps. Once if you know the DevOps, you will understand up to intermediate skills within AWS. And there are some people they can explore by themselves, but still, if there is an additional course is needed, we will have to plan it.
Okay, sir. So total
Okay.
syllabus is 2 months, sir. This one, 60 hours, is it?
It may take more than that also, but it depends like how we are progressing on every day. But ideally, we are going to take 45 classes.
So
Okay,
what
and
I
the timings,
feel
sir?
here is,
Timings,
yeah,
timings is in the morning.
Timings, I think people are, I think
opting for
posted in the
6:30
chat.
a.m. 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. is the time that people are opting for. We have conducted a poll.
Yeah,
If
but
any,
some people are US and UK based, so I think this is the right time, maybe if we can start second batch, something like that, we can.
Yeah,
Because it is
6:30
too
a.m.
early
it
for
will
UK
be,
people. 6:30 a.m. means it is UK time, it's 2 o'clock. So I think people who are
right.
logging from UK time. So it's too early, 2 o'clock means, and US also slightly difficult.
Okay.
Maybe Arun, you can check it out. Maybe other batch.
yeah, we'll
for
do
US,
that. We'll do that first. Let's get started with
batch.
like how many people wanted option 1 and option 2 have given already. So one option 1 is like 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. is one thing, okay, on weekdays, and option 2 is like I don't know whether Shekhar Reddy is, I don't know whether he is okay for 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. But other thing that I have in our mind is like uh, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. IST on weekends. Okay, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. IST on weekends. So what do you
Yeah,
take,
that's fine.
Shekhar? Like, yeah, that may be fine for you, Srinivas, but for Shekhar, like I have not checked with him, so I just have to have a word with him. Okay, Shekhar, like what's your view on that? Both the timings are fine for you, or like any particular thing? First, we have to check with the trainer, right?
Yeah, I will let you know.
Okay, sure, sure. Okay, so
But 6:30 to 7:30 it is fine right now. But
mhm.
weekend we will think about
Yeah, sure. We don't have the confirmation on weekend thing. So for now, 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. is a thing. Okay. So going ahead, we'll decide some other things because currently some other batches are going on. So once they are completed, we may decide the times again. Other few more batches will start parallelly. I'll have the discussion with Shekhar Reddy and update you guys. But for now, whoever is available for 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 a.m., they can contact Javid and get yourself enrolled. Okay, so we are going to start soon this kind of batch in parallel to or whatever the batches that are going on. So, Shekhar Reddy, can you post whatever I'm posting in the chat so that people can see? Like they have to reach out to Javed. So without that details, they cannot reach out. So
Sure.
can you show somewhere that details like how they have to enroll in the course so that
Sure.
yeah. So these are the details, guys, where you have to reach out to Javed. And if you want to enroll, and if you have any other questions related to course, how much price and all, we already have mentioned the price here, like 5,000 INR. Okay, so and timings 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. for now. Okay, that's what is the most of the people are voting for. Maybe in the future we'll announce more batches for this. For now, to get started, you guys can enroll in this. Okay. And as you already know, right, from our previous automation sessions also, it's one-time sign up and any number of batches you can attend. Okay. So in future, if there are any other training sessions from Shekhar Reddy, right, you can just join once. Okay. And upcoming batches will be, you can enroll free. Okay. Only one time you have to subscribe. The same strategy will follow here also. Okay. So if in due to some, yes. Hello. Yeah. So that's the thing, guys. Okay. So the time like one time enrollment will be there, okay, for this DevOps because security is another trainer. Okay, so all my courses you already know that I'll be providing for free and all. Okay, for the subscribed people with 5,000 INR. But coming to the DevOps side, that is a different side. So security will be will be the point of POC for trainer for this. Okay.
Yeah. So
Seven.
there are.
Yes.
Go ahead, Arun. Go on.
Yeah. So that's the thing. So if anyone is interested, you can reach out to Javed here with the details and mention your details, whether you join or doesn't join. If timings doesn't match, let us know. Okay. If more people are interested to join at 7 p.m. and all right, we'll have a word with Shekhar Reddy and with his availability, right? We'll decide. Okay. There are a lot of people, Shekhar, like from US and UK. they definitely want to have session at 8 p.m. to something like that. Okay, 7:30 or okay, you can decide that. Okay, it's a kind of flexibility that 7:30 p.m. to, or if you want to get started like at least 6:30 p.m. is also fine. I think so. Okay, we can go with 6:30 p.m. also, but I'll check with Shekhar Reddy on that. Okay.
Yeah, so there are a
Yes.
few more questions. I will address it. And
Yeah,
from
sure.
Preeti, right? So, is there any scripting language is needed? Linux is needed, and AWS and DevOps different or same? So, she have some confusion. Yeah, so try to understand one thing here. I am not a developer. I'm not writing any scripts like a developers. For example, let's say now ChatGPT came recently, and I can ask create a these things we'll learn it after some 30 days 30 classes, right? Create Jenkins file for deploying it in AWS in Kubernetes, right? So this I've just written a simple line, right? Nothing else. Understand, I don't have any knowledge on this particular piece. I'm just asking ChatGPT and it is going to give me what I have to do in DevOps or Jenkins, right? So I'll just copy this code and I will put it in Jenkins and it is going to work for us. But there are some minor changes, like you have to give some details, right? Credentials, all those things. After that, it should be working as expected. So these things, it will increase your velocity and it will increase your thought process. Okay. And Linux, yes, Linux, we are going to teach everything. And when it comes to AWS and DevOps, you see, AWS is a cloud provider who will provide VMs, who will provide storage, who will provide network to the organizations, right? So DevOps is a process which we will work with, our SDLC, like software development lifecycle teams. It can be developers, testers, and we will ensure whatever the product that we develop or maybe whatever the application we develop, it is getting deployed in the AWS and it is getting served to the outside public, right? So that is the difference. So DevOps is more on, handling CI/CD, continuous integration and continuous deployment. AWS is a cloud provider. So it is something like, you write your program on your, notepad, but where is that notepad is stored or where it is coming from? It is from our laptop, right? So consider laptop is an AWS and you are just an end user who is using a AWS services and serving the traffic to the public. And is there any questions?
Hi Shekhar, Ashish here. So I see like in this roadmap there are a number, I would say like more than 30 to 40 or more than 50 tools are mentioned, which
Yes.
are here and there are needed somewhere in some stages of the DevOps. So how much expertise a person is needed? I mean, obviously nobody can be expert in all the things, all the areas. So how
Yeah.
much expertise are required? Because learning all these tools itself is a kind of very time taking and challenging job, right? Keeping all this in mind. So what is your thought in this? Like,
Yeah. Okay, that's a very good question. So now, for example, understand personal recommendation. So now if I go to personal recommendations, maybe let me just look for Jenkins. Okay. So people are telling personal recommendations, Circle CI, Jenkins, Travis, TeamCity. So these are all alternative tools for the Jenkins. So Jenkins, we are talking about it. When you work on Jenkins, these things are all cakewalk for you, in the sense the next day itself you will be able to set up. So understand the concept is very much same. For example, let's say you want to take a photo of maybe some beautiful location. It doesn't matter what camera you have. You decided to take a photo, but you are looking for a good clarity, you are looking for good features, and you want a night vision or you want automated artificial intelligence. So no, those things you will go for different options. But taking the photo, you need to be a photographer, right? So similarly here, when you want to be a DevOps engineer, you need to know at least what you want to do. So then you can choose what tool I have to use it, and then use that tool in the organization. For example, TeamCity, Travis, GitLab, Drone, CircleCI, these are all commercial tools. In the sense, we need to pay for the license. Jenkins, when it comes to Jenkins, is open source. That's why most of the people will prefer Jenkins. Similarly, even if you look at Ansible, right? Ansible, Chef, Puppet, these are all comes under configuration management. Even though there are many tools, but all they work for one purpose. Similarly, here also, there are 6 tools, they work for one purpose. Is that clear?
yeah, fine, obviously. So I mean, we will have to pick based upon our requirement and necessity of that particular point of time, because nobody can learn everything, each and everything. So we need to grab idea from one tool and we can apply the same thing in the other tools.
Correct, absolutely right. And there is another question in CI/CD, are we going to pick up Jenkins? Yes, absolutely. So from basics, we'll be taking to advanced.
But lot of tools are there, no, sir? Is it a time 45 days is sufficient? Because are we not covering only
45
just the basics?
classes, not a day, so it will become 2 months.
So are we not covering just basics, like for example, Terraform means just basics and then going to the other tool and again only basics and again. So because we can get in YouTube
Yeah.
also. So what is the
So
difference you are giving actually? Because
Yeah.
like for example, 20 tools are there and each, if you tell 4 days or 5 days also, given the size of the syllabus and, given the number of concepts. Okay.
So
So
we
for
will
example,
not
one
go
topic.
by.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
go
for
ahead.
example, one topic, if you take 4 days, like for example, and again take 4 hours, other topic, other 4 days. So we covering only the basics, because basics anyway we can get in YouTube also. Just example I'm saying, please do
Yeah,
not to
correct.
offend. So
No,
how
that's right.
confident you are giving in terms of syllabus perspective? Is it only the small size you are covering? Let us say Terraform, or let us say Ansible. So are we how much 1 to 10? How much percentage you are covering? Is it 1 to 10, 7 you are covering, or 6 you are covering, or 5? Considering
Okay.
the timelines, syllabus content, and the size and the duration
Yeah.
also, because 45 days. So you are
So
saying.
if you look at Terraform, right? So we are covering only these topics. See, our agenda is major DevOps, not on infrastructure management. Okay, but we want to cover it so that you are aware. Now, most of the people in interviews, they ask, do you know Terraform? At least having some, a skill set, how you can create resources in AWS, that will make you to, get through the interview. But rest of the topics, if you see Kubernetes and Docker and Jenkins, right? And also the Linux, we are covering all of the things. Like maybe you asked for out of 10, right? Then we'll be covering up to 8. Hope it answers or.
So yeah, that answers correct, sir. But the only thing is, are we? I mean, not covering. I mean, yeah. How different is it from YouTube? For example,
Let me answer this,
Okay.
Srinivas.
how
Even
example like real
I
time. Say
can
I am
cover it.
emphasizing on the real time. So how different is it? Are we
Okay.
covering the
So
real time perspective, or it's only basics,
okay, I can
installations,
answer
and then
it.
execution?
See, for example, let's say now I am not going by tool wise, I'm going by use case wise. Okay, I'm going to build something, and what I need to have tools to be used. It doesn't matter whether it's a Terraform or it's a Docker or Linux or anything. But only Linux will cover it in the beginning because you need to have some commands awareness. Once the Linux is done, we are going to interconnect with the Jenkins, right? So Jenkins, Git, and Docker, right? So this is a typo. So
Will you take any
Git,
project, sir? Any project like
yes,
that we will be doing?
yes,
Okay.
yes, correct. So Docker, Kubernetes. So these are all interconnected. So if you just go by tool wise, right, you will not have any idea how I can interconnect and how I can make a solution to deploy. For example, if you refer YouTube videos, you will have like Kubernetes, or even they will also talk about CI/CD or maybe only the Git chapter. But where do you do an integration? Right? How I can do the integration? What is my thought process? All those things that we'll be putting it. See, when I talk about DevOps, right, it's more about how we apply our methodology rather than looking at tools, right? So you think of any application like Gmail application is there. Most of the people are using. If you're a student, even you have a Gmail account. How that application is really getting deployed and what is the background that they are thinking, how they decide what kind of tools that can be used to deploy it in a cloud native services, right? That is nothing but Kubernetes or Docker, all those things. When you just go by tool, you will become expert in tool. For example, even I do have an experience around 14 years. I never want to rate myself as a tool expert. I want to rate myself as a DevOps expert. The reason is when you want to connect interconnectly, if you want to connect the things right, you should think on the solution, how I can make the better. Any other questions?
Fine, sir, fine. As long as you are covering, taking one project and real time, if you explain, it will be very good rather than just basics.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
always real time is
Yes,
important.
Shekhar. So I have one question.
Yeah, sure.
So thank you for this class. So in most of the organization, right, we have the separate operation department, and then we have the development separate, right? So after learning this course, do we need to maintain 2 separate version of resume, because we are learning automation, right? And now if we learn this, isn't it? I mean, I know it's added advantage, but how it will be added into the automation resume, and I mean, I'm a bit confused on that side, like, so either we look for the DevOps job or we should look for the automation job, right? Or
So both are coming under same category. The reason is some of them they call it as automation engineer in their companies, and some of them the roles will be like DevOps engineer. So automation engineer, what you do, let's say something which are running manually or maybe which are getting deployed manually, you are going to write an automation to have a seamless integration or deployment. So what a DevOps engineer is doing, he is also collaborating with other people and understanding where the manual effort is going on and have a single pipeline which will have all the services getting interconnected and then getting deployed at the end of the stage, right? So when it comes to scope, right, those are all having intersected, because the reason is, as I mentioned, right, it depends on company to company, but the approach is same. The DevOps approach, whatever you do in automation engineer also, the concept is the same.
okay, I think okay, so this will help to deploy whatever you tested
Yes.
while working with the operation into production. That's what we can say,
Yes,
right?
yes, correct.
Okay.
That is right.
Yeah.
So now there is no difference team like development and operations. Now, a lot of companies, around 80%, already adopted this DevOps approach. Even though they are calling it different names like system automation engineer, DevOps engineer, analytical engineer, right? Or maybe full stack engineer, SDET. So there are different names popped up, SRE, right? Site reliability engineer. There are many different names, but end of the day, the core is DevOps.
Yeah, but most of the client that I work with, they had, already now they also have the separate department, for the support and operation, right?
Yeah, that's a different thing. See, in support also, if you look at who is directly working with consumers, they are not a DevOps engineer. So they are more like, front-end people who will, answers the customer queries. But this is more on within the company, within the organization, right? There are two different support, right? Everywhere front-end test, frontline people and then back-end people. And when it comes to DevOps, we more concentrate on our ecosystem, not on the outside of world.
Okay. Because I remember, my last client, we had the people, who've been doing all this thing, they will be maintaining the logs and checking the
I agree with
performance.
Correct.
You
I agree with you. See, it
as a
all depends on.
as a QA engineer, my role was to make sure the application we tested and hand it over to the, the management, and then take it from there.
Yeah, see, let me tell you one simple example. Let me take my, professional career, right? I started with just support, like, from the worldwide, I get a support request and I used to help them replying email. But I want to, increase my career scope and go into some other domains. And I want to learn something and then work differently, because I work 2 years in the same fashion, every day login, checking the tickets and respond. I want to grow myself, right? So how I can do it now? You are in QA domain and your part just testing is done and then you want to hand over. But that job will be there forever. Now automation is coming to picture, ChatGPT is coming to picture, artificial intelligence is coming to picture, right? So when we want to put our career path, right? So then we have to look for something which is easy, which is adaptable by me. I cannot, for example, let's say now I'm in QA. Next year I cannot become expert in artificial intelligence because it has its own dependencies. You need to have a framework to understand NLP, MLP. There are a lot many things, right? Machine learning, all those things. But if you ask me honestly, I would say maybe I'm not capable for it because my background is different. But what I can do it, which is near to my background and which is easy, and I can gain the skills and I can get into some good role and can change the domain, right? So then in that case, I felt okay, maybe DevOps is the better a thing which doesn't need to have much programming skills. But over the period of time, maybe I will be able to search it ChatGPT or somewhere, but I should have a thought process how I can run it, right? So those things and infra awareness, all those things which will teach us. But it is up to your individuality, like you want to continue in QA, but how long it will be there, because IT itself is volatile, right? So even if you look at our DevOps roadmap that is there are hundreds of tools. So today it will be there and tomorrow they will change personal recommendation to something else, right? But are we not able to adopt? That is the question. So let's say tomorrow AWS is gone. So that means whoever is working in AWS, are they not capable to work on Google Cloud? In reality, it is not, right? They will be able to work on it because they know the
Right.
concept, how
Yep.
things are working. It doesn't matter what cloud they are there. So similarly, DevOps approves also same thing. That's why I'm not sticking to any cloud here, because if you stick to one cloud, then your resume will fall back only on that cloud. So why don't we be agnostic against the cloud? Today,
Got
maybe
it,
for
yeah.
learning, yeah.
So basically, if you are learning automation, I think this will be an added advantage.
Yes,
You can keep one resume, add all this thing, whatever you learn, and I think you will have high chances of getting
yeah,
a automation DevOps engineer job.
correct. So let's say you have a resume today with the Google Cloud. Let's say there are no calls. Everybody who will call you, they're asking AWS. At least do you know basics? What do you say in general, right? Our mindset will be like, okay, I learned only Google Cloud, and trainer teached only in GCP DevOps. I may not be suitable. Then again, I have to go for DevOps with AWS. But after attending that course, you will come to know, okay, I should have done this by myself because I already know DevOps. Just switching from one cable to another cable, I don't need to be get trained again. I should be able to do myself. So that level of confidence, you'll be getting it. To be honest, that is what I have done for other students also.
Got it. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. And there is a question from Shiza that I think DevOps is before production and support engineers come into picture after the production move to production environment. Yes, that's a level of application support is different and infrastructure support is different. When you are a DevOps side, you are a superset of all of them. So you are like L2, L3 above, right? So when you are working in DevOps engineer, right? So you are a superset for support engineers and also the infra engineers, because you are the one who only knows how the application is deployed, where it is running, and which infrastructure it is running, what kind of connectivity it has, and how it is getting exposed to public internet. No other people will be having this skill.
Okay, so Shekhar Reddy, I would like to talk for a while. There were two questions coming. One question was from Srinivas asking about what is the difference between YouTube videos and this course, right? So basically, in YouTube videos, maybe the concepts may be there, but the guidance may not be there in a systematic manner. Okay, the connections are between the tools and all, how to use in DevOps and all may not be there. But here we have, an expert who is already working and has good amount of experience, learning from an experienced person and what exactly is the reality. Because in YouTube, I know that the way we create the videos are, whatever is necessary and unnecessary also will post that. Okay, because different type of peoples will be there and they need different knowledges. But here the reality will be taught. Okay, what exactly is done by DevOps team in the real time. Okay, with the help of all these tools that I don't think no one can teach on YouTube such kind, because that happens only when we talk to the people in the sessions and all. Because that I generally, even when I record the sessions on my YouTube, right, there will be some kind of artificial nature will be there while recording them. Okay, even though we try to do that, mimic whatever we do in real time, but artificialness will be there. But what happens in real time when training sessions are happening, you will get a lot of doubts and questions. Okay, while Shekhar Reddy will be explaining about DevOps, right, you will be getting a lot of doubts and questions on such kind of topics. So you will have one person who has a lot of experience. You are not just learning from YouTube or something, but here you have one person, real person to interact and get your doubts clear. Okay, that's one answer I can give you there. Okay, that will make the difference in this course. And other question we got here is we are already learning manual testing, QA, and all those stuff. Now, if we learn DevOps, what is the advantage? There is no loss in that. By giving your time here, your whatever the areas as a QA you're not giving that much importance. Like for example, Jenkins, as a tester will not teach you complete Jenkins, right? You can become a master in Jenkins by going in this DevOps thing, right? A lot of configurations will be there. Why these configurations are there? The different mindset will be there. Okay, that mindset you will get, and because of that mindset, it will help you in your day-to-day job. At same time, it will help you in beating the competition. Okay, so you see a lot of things we can do to beat the competition, but whatever that is comes our way, we have to learn it and go forward. Okay, that's our, since this is coming, and somewhere the mapping is there between the testing and operations. Okay, that mapping part will get more confidence. At same time, you have the idea of different configurations, something that you have not learned. For example, you generally learn SQL for manual testing, where you are using, okay? Maybe somewhere, you'll be using that, okay? But how it is related to testing, that's not related to testing, but we have to learn it. Similarly, DevOps also, if you learn it, it will be an added advantage, okay? Will become more good, because in real time, what happens, that more clarity you will get while uploading, pushing your code, different challenges will get and all those stuff, okay? That will be covered as part of CI/CD, and it will strengthen, because as QA we don't focus much on that areas, but this DevOps course will help you in strengthening that areas, and you'll become more confident in your work. Okay, that's what I can say.
Yeah, that is absolutely. There is another question from Manjeev. Could you please elaborate on the daily responsibilities of a DevOps engineer? Yeah, so absolutely. See, when you join as a DevOps engineer, right? So what you do, you have to understand what is the existing DevOps processes that they are following, and then become familiar with them, become familiar with our CI/CD jobs, understand their platforms, maybe Jenkins, Docker, Kubernetes, and then you will come to know the use cases like, okay, next sprint, they call it as in Agile, right? Sprint is nothing but for every 2 weeks they plan what kind of things to be done, right? So in that 2 weeks of effort, so they will give you, okay, I want to set up a pipeline for one of the new application, and then it has to be auto deployed on lower environment of Kubernetes, or maybe build a Docker file or generate a manifest for this and store it in somewhere. So it is not something that you will be doing from basic until unless you join a startup. But if some people are already there in your team, like some DevOps engineers, so you will just adopt that culture and you will start implementing in the same way how they have done for the past things. Yeah, so the duration of the course will be 2 months. That is nothing but we are targeting for 45 classes. But in case if it takes more, we are ready to take. It is not like a hard rule saying that it will be completed in 45. It all depends on how many students that we get it in class, and whether are we able to clarify all the things, right? Maybe plus or 5, plus or minus or 5, plus or minus, things will happen.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah, done. We are done.
Yes, we are done, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all, guys. I'll upload the recording, into the YouTube channel tomorrow. Okay, at 6 p.m. So if anyone has missed or joined late, right, you can watch this recording there. Fine, everyone. Bye, everyone. See you. Okay. If
Thank you
anyone
so
is
much.
interested-
Have a good day.
Yes, if anyone is interested, you can reach out to Javed. The details are there in the Telegram group, and also posting them in the chat box here or in the description of this video I'll provide. So you guys can reach out to Javed if you want to enroll. Okay. Bye, everyone. See you. Thank you, Shekhar. Bye.
Yeah, thank you, Shekhar, for your information.